Boom. What up, guys? We are live. So we got LFA joining us for a debate. This is going to be a good time. So let's all give him a big welcome. But first, let's all get pumped up by listening to our new trailer. How do you feel about big dicks? We got Sarah J on the casting couch.
Yes.
She's never done this before.
You are allowed to have sex with other girls, but she's not. Fuck that shit.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you personally make?
Shoulder fuckers.
You gotta watch out for the shoulder fuckers. All right, so yeah, let's start off with a little bit of introduction, man. For anyone who's not familiar with you, can you just give a little bit about what yourself and what your channel does?
Okay, yeah, so my online persona, I'm just basically a YouTuber. I mean, I have a website, but it doesn't really serve a purpose right now because all my content's pretty much on YouTube. I started out as a fitness YouTuber, but that ended up changing around and, people started asking dating advice and we just kind of switched over to that. So it's pretty much Manosphere related content, but really any topic is open. Like I'll talk about religion, I'll talk about whatever, but mostly dating advice.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll say this. Mad respect for coming on for debate. It's really, would you could say you're like a red pill channel, or is that a fair characterization?
Well, so there's multiple definitions of red pill. You've got like the PUA version of red pill, which was like Real Social Dynamics. You've got like the Rollo Tomasi version, which is, that's kind of their brand over there.
The Rollo pill?
Kind of different. Yeah. And you've got like the MGTOW red pill, which is like, I don't know if you know of like Hammerhand and Sandman and those guys, like they consider themselves red pill.
Do they? I debated Sandman. He called himself MGTOW.
MGTOW, yeah, but MGTOW also considers themselves red pill. So
interesting.
Yeah, so I think everybody's definition of red pill is different because they consider it almost like if you know what's up, like about a subject, what's up, then you're red pilled, and if you don't know what's up, like you're not in the know, then you're blue pilled. That's just kind of what that terminology means. So, I mean, I would consider myself to know what's up. Like I know a lot of stuff. So I guess you could say I'm red pilled.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the red pill community, typically when you ask a red pillar, what's the red pill about? It's like, oh, it's about the truth, right? We want to find the truth. But then when you ask a black pillar, they say the same exact thing. We're about the truth. So it's just like who's right, who's wrong, because the black pill version of the truth is, in a lot of ways different than the red pill version of the truth.
Yeah, well, the black pill accepts all the same things that the red pill does, and probably, I mean, guys like yourself probably accept a lot of that stuff too. Like, for example, a black pill guy will say women want a guy that's 6 feet tall. Everybody knows that, right? If she can have a guy that's over 6 feet tall, she'll probably choose that. But the black pill ideology is because you're not 6 feet tall, you should quit. You should give up, and that's the difference.
Yeah, well, a lot of the black pill guys, they truly hate the red pill guys. Like they almost prefer, because if you look at it like a spectrum, right? Like you have, like let's say PUA, then you have like further on the spectrum is red pill, then you have black pill, then you have MGTOW. The black pill guys will almost more often side with the PUAs than the red pill, even though the red pill is, in terms of what they believe, is more similar. So you see these ironies, like the black pill really hate the red pill guys, and the red pill, from what I've seen, aren't that fond of the black pill guys either. But it's just funny because every community is like, yeah, we want the truth. I don't think there's any community who's like, our community is not about the truth. We want like the fake news. That's what we're all about. But yeah, so my initial statement was this, like, respect for coming on. I find that for some reason, this is bizarre, but I find red pillars are less willing to have debates than black pillars. So I've had like a shitload of black pill guys on recently, and they usually seem to be more or less down for debates. But like the red pill guys like Rollo or Richard Cooper, all those guys, they're like fucking, they'll come up with every excuse on the planet not to debate you. Like they'll like just like cite things. 25 years ago, you had a premature erection. Like what?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could get some of the red pillars. I'm sure like Modern Life Dating or somebody would debate you. But
that's like the last person I want to debate.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you guys have problems, but the thing about Rollo is his brand is getting so big that he doesn't want to tarnish that brand. And whether you're right or you're wrong when you debate him, if you go against him, it may tarnish that brand. So he's really focused on brand management right now, because he's doing some pretty big stuff. Like, he's going on some big shows. Whether you agree with him or not, he's making a big impact.
Yeah, the funny thing is I'm actually going to be on that show that he was on recently pretty soon. And I think it'll be interesting because I'm sure the host will bring it up. It's the Sauce Podcast or whatever I think they're called, right?
Okay,
That's the show you're talking about?
I saw that one, yeah.
I'm going to be on there April 7th, I believe. But anyway, so I figured we'd start with the thing that I agree with you on. And I'm sure there's more, but this is the one thing that stood out. I think this is it's good to start with one thing that we agree on. So you say that fucking a woman good is very important, that there's a dumb idea in the manosphere that sex is just for the man and women don't care much about it. And there's also this dumb idea that eating pussy is beta. That's pretty common thought process in the manosphere. And I always thought that was like super dumb. And it seems like you kind of agree with me on that, right?
Yeah, 100%. So if you give a woman a good experience in the bed, she's going to remember you for that. So whether she's into a relationship with you or she's just, looking for, a one night stand or something like that, when you give it to her good, she's likely to probably come back, right? She had a good experience with you. And not only that, but as a man, and I think you can agree with me on this, I like to touch women. I would much rather touch on some titties than touch on myself. So when I'm rubbing a woman's back.
Well, bro, you're telling me you'd rather touch titties than a dick?
Yes. Well, that's what Well, some of these guys, it's questionable, but they act like foreplay is beta, like they're just serving a woman and worshiping the pussy. Yeah. I like rubbing a woman's back. Right. I like rubbing her neck. I like rubbing her booty. So foreplay to me is like, it's an easy thing to do. I like doing it. So
no, I agree. I mean, if you're so insecure about coming off as a simp that you can't even fucking eat a girl's pussy or make her come, then that's like more of a statement about your own insecurity rather than like the state. Like, no girl's ever like, this guy was pretty cool and he had a lot of shit together, but he ate my pussy and I thought that was so beta of him. So I decided not to see him again. That's never happened once in the history of sex.
Right.
But yeah, these guys have this idea that you put yourself, you become subservient to the woman when you provide her pleasure, which is then it's ironic also because a lot of those same guys, they say don't lead with your wallet, don't lead with your wallet, don't use your resources away to get the girl. But if you're not giving her good sex, then what else is she getting then? At that point, you have to provide her something else, right? For her to stay around. She's not just going to stay around with a guy who's bad in bed and is cheap and doesn't fucking spend time with her. What's the incentive for her at that point? So yeah, I think that's interesting that you and I agree on that. Okay, so let's move on to the few things that, well, actually, it's not a few, it's quite a few that we disagree on. So kind of following up on that statement that we're talking about being bad in bed. So I think in the same video, you go on and you state that women don't cheat on guys who are great in bed. Do you still believe that? Because I don't want to straw man you in positions you no longer believe.
So women don't cheat on men when the sex life is good with the man that they're with, because that, to me, sex is the glue that holds a relationship together. So women want an emotional, connection. Obviously, they want somebody they can have conversations with and get along with and, just chill with on a Saturday night or whatever. But if your sex life is good, that typically means that all that other stuff is good too. If you guys are sleeping with each other on a regular basis, things are going to fall in line. Couples that have good sex lives, sex is the ultimate form of bonding between a man and a woman. So if she's totally satisfied in the bedroom, I don't see her going out and hooking up with another dude. There might be some instances when it happens, but it's going to be rare. That's my opinion.
So I partially agree with you. I do agree that sex is very important and that it is the glue, so as to speak, that holds the relationship together. However, I would say it's a little bit of an oversimplistic, line of thought. And I think there's a lot of exceptions to this. For example, let's say you have a girl who's high novelty seeking. For her, you may give her the best dick ever, but if she's high novelty seeking, the fun is going to wear off. She wants that new dick, right? Because again, she's so high novelty seeking. Now, those girls are it's not like every girl, but it is somewhat common. Another example would be a girl who has past emotional trauma. And so she self-sabotages every relationship. So you have a situation where, you're great. You fuck her really well and you meet all her other needs. but she has past trauma and she self-sabotages every single thing that's going well for her. So she's still going to fuck another dude no matter how well you fuck her. So I think that there's so many like exceptions to that, that just, you know, fucking her well is not enough of a guarantee that she won't cheat on you. I think there's, you know, many other reasons why a girl could cheat.
It's not that I agree with anything that you just said. It's
so
just
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think guys should have a vetting process. And if she's somebody that has like that level of emotional damage, or that level of, like, let's say she's just like an extreme gold digger, right? And you caught her on a night when she was just horny, you know what I mean? So she hooked up with you, and then she wants to go get with a dude that's like an NBA basketball player. Like, I understand that situation. Like that's an, you know, an extreme situation. But typically when you're vetting a woman for like a relationship to actually be your girlfriend, so she can, you know, she can't cheat on you if she's not your girlfriend. You know what I mean? And I think you should vet her before she gets to that stage.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So you're saying basically it assumes that you already vetted her, and that's fair. I agree with you. You should obviously vet her before that. But for example, another exemption to that would be, let's say you're fucking her really well, but she feels like her emotional needs are not being met. You have that quite often, and in fact, that would actually happen to me when I was younger. You know, I would fuck chicks really well, but I was not emotionally present. And not to say I got cheated on, but like, you know, they're like, I've had girls tell me like, hey, like, you know, you're not emotionally there. So you have quite often these situations where the guy, you know, the sex is good, but everything else sucks. So then the girl finds the guy that meets her emotional needs. And maybe he's not even like, you know, fucking her that much. You know, they have sex here and there, but she's with him for the emotional connection because he's much more emotionally present.
Right. But how many warning signs did she give you? How many conversations did she try to have before that happened? Like normally, like I've been in situations like that too, but I mean, she'll tell me time and time again, like for several months down the road, that I'm not communicating well enough, or like some stuff like that. So I pretty much know like that's going to happen. I mean, you're right. That does happen. But I mean, I think it's pretty obvious when that's going to happen. The warning signs are all going to be there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think with the vast majority of the time, the warning signs are going to be there unless the girl is just like an exceptionally horrible communicator. So would you, okay, so it seems like we're not even disagreeing on much. So would you then say that, you know, what you really mean is that women being good in bed is very important, but there are certain exceptions, like, for example, if you didn't screen the girl, or if her emotional needs are being met, like, because we might not even be debating much on here.
Right. Yeah. There's got to be some nuance there. And when I say something like, I don't think I said 100% of the time. I just said when a woman cheats, or women typically don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I said that. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, but you got me there if I did.
Okay. No, I mean, yeah, I think like, you know, I think
I'll
we're pretty much
that one. I'll concede that one if I have to. Like, I'm not sure exactly what I said, but you may be right.
No, I got an exact quote. I always try to like get exact quotes because I want to misquote people, because I hate when people do it to me. Like when people like, you said 3 years ago in this video, I'm like, that's completely different than what I said. Okay, so let's move on to the next point. This is kind of you know, on this topic, but I think it's slightly different. So the quote is, only a reason a woman will stop having sex with her partner is because he's bad in bed. And I agree with you. That's quite often that could be the reason. But I would say there's also several other reasons why that could happen. And of course, him being bad in bed could definitely be one of the reasons. But there's other reasons. Like one, for example, he started getting all simpy after the relationship. Like she fell for him when he was this cool, non-needy, you know, alpha guy. And then he became all simpy and beta after the relationship, and her attraction wore off. Like, I think that's, you know, that's an issue. Another one could be he let himself go. So he was like, you know, like in good shape, and then he got fat, right? And she just lost attraction for him. Another one could be that she's not feeling the emotional connection. Like maybe, you know, he was kind of present during the initial stages, and then they got together. He kind of started taking her for granted, and he started focusing on his business like nonstop. And then she just feels neglected. So I guess my counter argument would be that there's many other reasons why a woman could stop having sex with her partner, aside from him just being bad in bed. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that too. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Yeah, I don't know that I said. Was that an exact quote?
Yeah, mine? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I go hyperbolic, and
I feel you, man. I feel you.
Yeah. I'll have to concede that one too. I'm 0 for 2.
No, I mean, I think that's why it's good to have these discussions, because what I found that like the vast majority of the time when I do debates with people, at the end of the debate, we're like, yo, we don't even really disagree on that much. So I think that debates are a good way of like kind of like merging two schools of thought. And then like me and Donovan, we did a debate. And I thought we thought we were like, I thought that this guy's pretty much wrong about everything. And after like I explained to him my thought process and we put some nuance in there, we only disagree on like 20, 25%, right? Not like 90%. So I think that's why these things are like really good.
Yeah.
I wish more people in the Manosphere did these kinds of discussions.
Yeah, I think you're the only one doing it right now. Like you do like several per week. And you've had some pretty big guys on. Like I think you had Sandman, that Martin Goldberg, Donovan. Yeah. It would be really cool to see Myron Gaines come on.
Yeah, he'll never do it. I would love that, but he'll never do it.
You might.
I've brought it up multiple times. I've had even my fans super chatted in. His exact words were, "We don't do debates." When someone asked him to debate me, yeah, no, I don't think he will. But it would be interesting if he ever did. Yeah, Martin Goldberg was interesting because me and him literally didn't even disagree on anything. Like when we started talking, we just realized we basically agree on everything. Sandman was a little different. Sandman one was interesting because I think he was like the only person that took like some offense, I guess, at some of the words I use. He felt like I was being a little too harsh on the MGTOW community, which I thought I was like being super like fucking empathetic. But apparently those guys need like extra like tenderness or whatever. So they're like, they don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah. That's his brand. You know, he doesn't want anybody stepping on his money. That's all that is.
Is there even any money coming in there? Like they're all demonetized and shit.
Well, he sells the dolls and they get like a pretty high percentage on them. Like
wait, I thought that was the
TFM.
Yeah, I thought that was TFM.
I think they both do.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they get a really high commission on it. It's like, I mean, those dolls are like several thousands of dollars and they get like 10% or something.
Well, I know TFM is like dating a doll. Like he told me he has feelings for his doll, which I found interesting. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next point. So, you know what was interesting as I was going through kind of your videos? It almost seems like several months ago, you kind of had, and correct me if I'm wrong, you almost had like a mindset shift. Like you almost like you found Jesus or something, because it feels like your earlier videos, you're different in them than you are in your later videos. Like your message is different. Is that correct, or am I missing something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been fairly religious. I don't necessarily live like a hardcore Christian lifestyle. I mean, I grew up Christian though. And what actually happened is I injured my back and, you know, there's like some complicated stuff going on. I ended up like having to go in for emergency surgery. So like I was in the hospital and they put me on like a bunch of painkillers and stuff for like several weeks. So I mean, I think that might have played a role. Like I think I was a little bit depressed. So I was getting into like the religious stuff. Now, those are my beliefs. Like everything I said in those videos, I stand by it. I mean, I'm a believer for sure, but you know, I probably wouldn't have made it public had I not been on the drugs.
Okay, yeah, because it seems like there's almost like a vibe shift. Like when did you hurt your back? Was it like 3 months ago, 4 months ago?
Yeah, it was like early December.
Okay, yeah, that's like you can sense it like in the videos that something happened in that period. Is your back okay now?
Yeah, I'm back in the gym.
All right, cool. Yeah. As a side note, you should try, if you still have back pain, try stem cells. I did it because I have neck issues and I did some stem cells in my neck and it helped me a lot.
Yeah, I've read into that. I'm not like that's some pretty hardcore stuff. So I'm not sure, like I got to do some more research, but I've heard a lot of good things. I know a lot of NFL players and NBA players use it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk more about that offline. But anyway, okay, so let's move on to the next point. So I guess this is after your back injury. I think this is what quote comes from. So you basically say, this is not a quote, this is just kind of more of a statement. You will fuck a woman's head up by having casual sex with her. And then the quote is 99% of women that I've, in this case, you had sex with in past were in tears. So do you still stand by that statement, or is that not something you longer believe?
You kind of cut out like midway through that sentence. Can you
okay, let me repeat it. So the quote is 99% of women that you know, you've had sex with in the past were in tears when you talk to them, you know, recounting the experience. And the, you know, the implication is that they regret having casual sex. And then you go on to kind of basically conclude that you will fuck a woman's head up by having casual sex with her.
Not necessarily by having casual sex with her, but you'll fuck a woman's head up by making her believe that you want something serious. And, you know, if you're a guy that's, and I tell guys to be straight up honest, there is a such thing as a friends with benefits. But most of the time, women can't handle a friend with benefits because they start to catch feelings. But the reason for that video was, I was talking about pickup artists, basically. So a lot of dating coaches don't do this, but pretty much all pickup artists have this mindset of like, well, they teach their guys kind of to go for a woman's emotions and, you know, just get her invested in you. And then what happens is guys do that, they get the sex, and then they leave the chick. Women do get emotional baggage from that. And I'll stand by that 100% for sure. You know, and what happens is they start to disconnect the idea of how do I put this? Of like romance and emotional connection with sex. So for example, let's say you have a woman that goes through some emotional trauma, like as a kid, right? Something happens to her and, you know, some like a grown man does something to her or something. Then she is going to disconnect the romantic side, the emotional connection side of sex because she has to. It's now her like, in order for her to not go absolutely crazy in her head, she has to disconnect that feeling. So with a woman who is, say, 21, who's hooking up with some 21-year-old dude who's a pickup artist, who's leading her on, he's making her think he's in love with her, he fucks her a couple of times, then he just, you know, throws her to the road. She's going to go through a much smaller version of that. So women that go through this repeatedly tend to have a lot of emotional baggage and a hard time committing to men. They have commitment issues. Yeah.
So I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said, but I think that what you're referring to is more of like the dark triad guys, like, you know, who do the dark triad type of tactics to bang the chick, which I agree with you, can fuck a girl up. But like, you know, if you don't deceive the girl into having sex with you, like you don't promise her a relationship, you don't play with her emotions, then she's not going to feel that deception, right? Like, why would she? Because you were straight up. But like, yeah, if you do like dark triad type of shit, but I would disagree. I don't think like the majority of the pickup community is dark triad. I know there's some guys who are, but I would say it's less than 25% from what I've seen.
I don't know the exact percentage. You could also be right about that. But the reference in the video is just that women typically, like, you do have some exceptions. Like I've met women that told me just to pick up a bottle of liquor and come over to their place. Right. I know what they want. They just want one thing. But there's other women that pretend like that's all they want because they don't want to like come off like a square or whatever. So they give you the pussy, but in actuality, they're actually in love with you, especially after they give you their body.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I don't necessarily disagree with that. So I guess my question is this. You know, when you said 99% of the women that you've had, and if you're being hyperbolic, just let me know and we can like move on to the next point. You know, you had sex with were in tears, you know, because they felt. So is that because when you were younger, you would kind of be more dark triad? Is that the reason for it? Or what was the, like, why were they upset, I guess is my question.
I would say I was fairly heartless. Like I didn't necessarily care about women's feelings when I was younger. I wouldn't say that I was dark triad. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but
it's kind of like the it's kind of like you know, when you use manipulation, like narcissism, like stuff like that.
No,
like,
none of that. It's just, you know, kind of, you don't have to show your cards. Like a woman might really like you a lot. You don't have to tell her you know, you have to be honest with her and say, all you want is sex. Well, now actually you should do that. But I'm saying when I was younger, I wouldn't. You know, a lot of times I would just kind of, you know, keep that to myself. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because like the one thing I would say is like if I talk to the vast majority of women I fucked, and you know, I've been with hundreds of chicks, I think I'm sure there's a few who probably do regret it. Like I'm not gonna say none of the hundreds of girls are like, you know, regret it. I'm sure there's a few that do, but like the vast majority, at least the ones that I've run into and talked to, like they don't have any like they have only positive things to say about the experience. Like there's no negativeness. And that's just because I don't really lie or deceive women, right? Like I'm pretty straight up. So no girl who bangs me is like, yeah, this guy's gonna, marry me. Like none of them they all know what's up, right?
Right.
That's very straightforward.
So, sorry, I don't
Go ahead.
you interrupt. So are most of your hookups from like cities like Miami, like big cities? Because that's where you live right now, right?
They're all over the place. I mean, I've lived in New Jersey, New York, New Zealand, Eastern Europe, Colombia, but I would say the vast majority are from major cities. Yes,
So
I
like
would say
Miami, New York, New Jersey.
not so much New York, but more like Miami, LA, Texas, Medellin, Warsaw, places like that.
Yeah. So the women that you're going to experience, for example, in Miami, like I visited Miami before. Most of the women that I talked to in Miami were women that were just like me. They were visiting. So they weren't expecting anything serious. They're like tourists. You know what I mean? It's like they know they're never going to see you again. They're there to have a good time. They want to get drunk. They want to smoke some weed. They want to have some sex. So, if you happen to be the guy that they're going to hook up with, then, they don't expect commitment from you. But I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like I've vacationed to these places. So like maybe 10% of my lays are from big cities. Most are from, Tulsa is a city, but
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So like everybody kind of knows everybody. Like they know your reputation. They know what you're all about and all that. So women kind of protect their reputations and they invest themselves in a different way than women do in Miami. Like in Miami, you've got sugar babies, you've got all kinds of escorts, all kinds of strippers, all kinds of tourists. So women disconnect. It's easy for them to disconnect sex and emotion. But where I live, it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, I think the area affects the values. So the values in Oklahoma are going to be pretty different than the values in Florida. I would say most of the girls I hook up with, they're not tourists, they're not escorts, they're not sugar babies. They're just like regular Miami locals. Most of them, they're not going to be like super conservative, which I think might be different. In a place like Oklahoma, the girls might be more culturally conservative, so they're going to have different values. So, okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the next point. Okay, so on this one, I want to actually ask you for clarification first because I wasn't sure what you meant. So I think it was in the same video, maybe not, maybe it was a slightly different one, but you were talking about like sins, and you made an analogy that I didn't understand, so I want to clarify. You talk about fornication. Did you? I'm sure I'm misquoting you, but did you say that fornication is as bad as murder and battery, or did I completely butcher that?
Yeah, I 100%. I said that. So, if are you a religious person?
No, I'm agnostic.
Okay, so here's the thing. For anybody that believes in Christianity or pretty much any religion, the purpose of the religion is to follow the steps that the book teaches you and the word teaches you so you can make it to heaven at the end. So if you're a believer in that, you have to follow these steps. So if it tells you not to steal, you don't steal. It tells you not to kill, you don't kill. So regardless of what the sin is, whether it's adultery or, fornication, which is like just sex for pleasure, the sins are equal. So if you're a believer that there's a heaven and a hell, and you believe that there was going to be like some sort of a revelations or something, I don't mean to get too, dorky into religion here, but if you're a believer of something like that, then you would have to believe that when the time comes for judgment, God doesn't have time to differentiate sex or fornication from murder. They're both sins. You weren't living right, so you wouldn't make it.
Okay, so a few things on that. So not to go down the religious, argument, but I would say that if, because I'm agnostic, so I don't know if God is real or not, but if he is, he's got to be this very powerful, omnipotent being, right? Because he created everything. So I'm sure that he does have the time to have some nuance into people's, sins. That'll be my first counterpoint. But the second one, to get off religion, just talk about like, do you truly feel that like from an ethical perspective, like having sex out of wedlock is as bad as murdering someone?
No, not definitely not. And from a moral perspective, obviously not. So one is evil, like it's out of hate and anger. It's a crime. Like it's it's just hateful.
Right.
And also it's against the law.
Right.
So the law of the land. So there's several different reasons. And whereas fornication is, you're not necessarily harming anybody,
Right.
but you're just giving into a guilty pleasure.
Right.
We've all done it. Obviously everybody in the sphere does it, but in terms of religion, it's still it's supposed to be avoided. So it's something people should think about. A lot of your viewers are going to be religious. A lot probably aren't, but a lot are. So it's something that it should cross their mind.
But okay, but like for example, let's say you have a son, right? You have two sons. One of them, fornicates, and one of them, commits murder, right? Like, you would be like way, he would frown way more on the murder son, probably disown them, I assume, versus the fornication son. You would probably, even if you are a super religious family, you'd probably be more likely to forgive them. So like just taking like the religious aspect of it aside, because religion is some, it's based, like everyone has their own relationship with religion. Right. Taking that aside from like a societal perspective, like you would agree that even laws aside, one is inherently like way worse than the other. Like there has to be that nuance, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, okay, so we can move on to the next one. I just want to make sure you weren't arguing that murder is as bad as banging chicks. But you don't think, okay, let me ask one more question on this. You don't think that like, yeah, I don't want to make it too religious, but that if there is a God, that he's going to be like, he's going to have nuance when he evaluates. Like he's going to be like, okay, maybe this person, like let's say fornication is against God's word or whatever, right? And let's assume for the sake of argument that God is real, that he's going to be like, okay, well, yeah, when you were younger, you did break my rules, but you wound up becoming a good person, blah, 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 right? Versus the other guy, you were a cold-blooded killer. You took human life. Like you were a piece of shit all your life. Because I don't think people like murder and then become good people. Like once you start murdering, you're a murderer. Like, I don't think that's something you can just give up easily, like serial killing. So you don't think that God would have that kind of nuance when he's doing like judgment?
Well, so if you murder somebody and it's something that you like contemplated, you were willing to do it, it was premeditated, you're probably a psychopath. And a psychopath probably isn't going to convert to a religion. They're probably just, they just don't believe in anything like that. But in the eyes of God, fuck, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. Fuck, what was the last thing you just said?
Well, I was talking about like, and I guess we're kind of getting into religion now, and that's the last question I'll ask on this is like, you don't think that God will have that kind of nuance where he won't say all sins are equal?
Okay, I remember now. So if you killed somebody, for example, let's say somebody breaks into your house and you kill them,
right? And
you know what you did was wrong, right, and you ask to be born again, or you are officially born again, you definitely mean it, you repent, then I think God would forgive you and allow you into the kingdom. Whereas if you're somebody who just has a lot of sex, like let's say you sleep with your neighbor's wife, you sleep with some chick at work, you sleep with some chick here, there, you cheat on your own wife with some other girl. These are things you can be forgiven for, but you would have to be born again and you would have to repent and, stop living that way.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's move on to the next one. Because otherwise it's going to be like a religion debate. Okay. So this is moving on to the next point. So you say that basically guys who cold approach with intention of having casual sex are doing something bad. Like you don't say this directly, but that's kind of what's implied in the video. And correct me if I'm wrong. Are basically, destroying society, which implies they're doing something wrong. So do you still believe that, or?
I think they're contributing to a demoralized society for sure. And I was part of that contribution for a long time. Honestly, sometimes I still am. I'm not even going to be holier than thou here, but I do believe that the strongest societies in the world, they've always been societies that believe in monogamy. So when you have a wife and children, you seem to have more to live for than a guy who is, let's say, 40 years old and still just hooking up with random chicks all the time. And that's just by and large, just widely accepted, because you are going to want to have things to pass on to your children. You're going to, look after the safety and the provision of your family. So you're going to just sort of live right. You're not going to be stealing. You're not going to be killing, by and large. That's just the way that it works. Whereas societies that just kind of run amok and just hook up with whoever they want to hook up with tend to be the highest crime, highest murder, lowest GDP nations in the world. So I think that
Wait, the last thing you said is lowest GDP. Like that mean they're like the poorest nations?
yes.
Because the countries that have the most liberal attitudes towards sex are like America, Western Europe. Those are like the richest countries.
Sexually liberated, yes, but we also put, aside from South America and Asian countries, we put the most importance on the family, and we've steered away from that. So what you're talking about, the sexual revolution and the whole liberal revolution and all that we had in like the 60s and 70s, that's what I was referring to as our society going downhill when that happened. And our society definitely is going downhill. America went from the number one top most powerful country in the world to we are slipping fast. And more conservative countries like China and Russia are smoking us right now.
Not to make it political, but do you want to live in China or Russia? Like those places?
I would hate that. I would hate that. Absolutely, I would hate that. I like having the freedom, as much as I would probably consider myself to lean more conservative. I still I enjoy liberal ideology. I think everybody should have the, all these freedoms that we have. I love it. But I think it runs its course and it hits a point where it really takes its toll on society. And I think we're looking at that.
Yeah, because I'm Belarusian, or I don't know if a lot of my audience knows that, but I'm from that part of the world. And I would not fucking go back there for any reason. Like that place, I hear some people make the argument that China, Russia, they're crushing us, but no one wants to live in those places. Those places are fucking suck. Russia, right now is waging a war where just today they have the conscription now. So basically, if you're a Russian man, you can be forced to fight in a war for territory, right? Which America hasn't had a draft in a very long time. China, has so many fucking issues. Like if you're of a different religion, they basically put you in a concentration camp. So those places fucking suck overall. And even if they have some advantages over us, they're not places where I think 99.9% of American citizens would ever want to live.
You're definitely right about that, but that's what America was in World War I and World War II. We had drafts. We had, all that stuff. The freedoms that you have now, you didn't have back then. And that's what caused us to be the most powerful nation in the world. That it was a lot of contributions, but, that had a lot to do with it. So when you see more authoritarian governments like China and Russia, they force their men to be men. They're forced to be masculine. They're forced to lift weights. They're forced to learn how to fight and use guns. In the United States, most guys nowadays are focused on drinking beer, smoking weed, and getting laid.
Sure. Yeah, I think you might be right about that. But at the same time, the U.S. is still probably the most desired country, with the possible exception of the EU and Scandinavian countries, to live in. Would you agree on that?
Well, that's free market capitalism. So people can come here, and especially foreigners, they're very good at, for example, my ex-girlfriend was Mexican, and her family, or she was first generation American. Her parents were from Mexico. So, her family became rich very fast. And the way that they did it was they would have 10 adult males living in the same house, all making 40 or 50,000 a year. And all that money would add up. You know what I'm saying? And they could invest that money to start their own businesses. So foreigners love coming over here because, especially, Middle Eastern people and, various Latinos, they come over here, and Asian people, they come over and just fucking dominate our system, do it a lot better than we do. But that's because they come from a country where they can't do that. So that's why America is still the United States is still the country people want to come to. But, how long is that going to last? I mean, inflation is kicking up. The government's getting more and more involved in the, your ability to run businesses too. They're watching your money. I mean, they're looking into.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I'm not a fan of that at all.
Yeah. We don't have to get too far into that though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So I guess, I kind of see your point about, look, like, we all are entitled to our own values, right? And if you believe that, you're entitled to be religious, you're entitled to, pursue the kind of relationships that you want. So, for example, I'm not one that's going to say, oh, dude, like, you don't want to have casual sex. What's wrong with you? Like, no, like, you want to do something different. So I guess that on that train of thought, my counter argument would be like, why, I guess, like, shame guys who have like different values than you?
Well, I don't shame guys. I've actually made like probably 50 to 75 videos kind of helping guys get more sex from.
No, you're right. You're right about that. I guess, I mean, like, after the channel, like after the shift and the
Well, the point that I was making was, so here's where that the shaming was being aimed at. How many guys in the manosphere right now are making videos about delusional girls on TikTok and OnlyFans and shit? Like, they got the same thumbnail. They got like some chick on OnlyFans, a red arrow pointing towards her, and like you won't, or every single man must watch this video, or modern women.
You're talking about Darius M, right?
But not just him. And I hate calling out names. He does it. 33 Secrets does it. Dude, there's probably like 15 to 20 of the most popular people in the manosphere right now that are making those same exact videos.
Yeah.
And these are the same guys that were teaching you how to turn these women into the women they're making fun of.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So that's where that was coming from. Like, how is 33 Secrets? And he might be a great guy. He's got some good content, I'm sure. But
yeah, I've had him on for debate as well.
But how's he going to teach men how to turn women into sluts? So basically, just be like the ultimate slut maker, and then turn around and switch his grift into making fun of women for being sluts.
I see your point, and I think you're actually right about that. But I would say they're doing it for views. Like, the reason I think there's so many videos like that is not because that's what they truly believe in. It's just because they know that this kind of shit is what gets clicks. Like,
right.
They just fall down. It's like a feedback loop, right? You make a video, this is a YouTuber. You make a video that gets a lot of views. Your brain is like, oh, okay, I should keep doing more of this.
Right.
But like, as a content creator, you have to resist the trap of like just doing the same thing over and over again just because it gets views, right? Like,
exactly.
So I think most go ahead.
Yeah, I see. You see it from the business side. I see it from a business side too. They're making a lot of money off of it.
Right.
But the average viewer out there literally believes they're giving them advice. They think that's dating advice.
Yeah, I see your point. Okay, when you explain like that, I would actually agree with you. Yeah. So you're basically pointing out the hypocrisy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Okay. And I understand that now that you've explained it. Yeah, I agree with you. There's so much hypocrisy in the manosphere. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So let's move on to the next thing. Okay. So this is a quote. So again, tell me if you still believe this, or you kind of have more nuance to it. Once you're into hookup culture, you curse yourself.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? Like, exactly? Like, what's your kind of explanation?
So when I was 16 years old, the thought of getting a blowjob was exciting to me, right? Then I got a blowjob, and I was like, you know what? I want a little bit more. And then, I got laid. And then it was like, I was like, you know what? I want to get with a girl with a big booty. I want to get with a black girl. I want to get with an Asian girl. I want to have a threesome. And I realized that every time that I would get involved in like some sort of like freaky shit, my ability to get excited would it took more. Like my threshold for excitement got higher. So it's like now I have to do even more just to chase that high. So can I plug back in and be satisfied by one woman? Like, if I want a relationship and like, let's say I meet a woman, I'm like, this is the one I want to have kids with her. I want to settle down with her. Am I going to be able to trust myself to do that? And, is that just something that I can do? Because once you've experienced like some of that freaky shit, it goes up, you need it, you need more.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of see your point. It's like the novelty baseline goes up. So it's like when dudes start watching porn, they might start watching like softcore, and then 2 years later, they're watching Japanese squid porn. And there's like fucking 20 dudes game banging one Japanese grandma or something like that. And even that doesn't do the trick for them anymore. But I guess I would say that couldn't you make that argument for anything in life? Like, for example, like, okay, like let's say you grew up in like a third world country where you eat beans and rice every day, right? And you know, you don't know any better, so that you're fulfilled with that. Then you move to America and you go to a fine restaurant and you try a good steak, and then no longer do the beans, you know, and rice do the trick for you. So, you know, is it fair to say that you shouldn't try the, you know, the good restaurant, the good meal? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's probably better overall for you to try fine dining, right? You can make that argument about driving a car, right? Like, you know, when you're broke and you're driving shitty cars, you know, like shitty Volkswagen, you know, satisfy, and then you drive a Lamborghini a few times, and you know, your taste goes up. The same thing with wine or whatever. So, don't you feel like you can make that argument for like any kind of anything in life?
Well, yeah, you probably could, but that's what I'm saying. So if you're going to buy a car that, you know, an expensive car, you should be able to afford that car. So like, you know, that's why I would say, like, when it comes to like a money situation, like you shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't buy a Lamborghini if you don't have 10 times that in your bank account.
Right, of course.
So I think if you're somebody that has like I dated a girl that was a shopping addict, right? She had like $50,000 of credit card debt or some shit like that. And she was just addicted to shopping, but she couldn't afford any of it, right? She had cursed herself by becoming addicted to the shopping. So now she needed the Gucci, she needed the Louis Vuitton, she needed all that stuff, right? So she's somebody that couldn't afford that, but she cursed herself financially by developing a taste for that stuff. So I think that holds true in just about any area. So people need to learn how to live within their means. And look, if you're somebody like Hugh Hefner, in his means in terms of his dating life that's what he wanted to do, right? He wanted to have a harem of beautiful women around him all the time. Right. And that's fine. He was able to do it. And you know, that's just how it went. But the average guy, I'm not sure if that's a route that they're going to be able to maintain.
Okay, I think I sort of see your point. But you don't feel like you could, like when you're younger, you can enjoy hookup culture, and then if it gets boring for you, and then you get a girlfriend, and you're happy with that. Because I see a lot of guys in the game, that's what happens to them. Like they hook up with a bunch of chicks, and it gets a little old after a while. You know, even the novelty factors, and then they get a girlfriend, right? And they start. So you don't see that as like a possibility that could happen.
It is, but it just becomes less likely. So. Again, all I can do is speak from experience. I don't sell any courses or anything like I don't promise anybody any results or anything like that. So what I will say is, let's say when I rewind time to when I was in high school and I was a virgin, right? When I was a virgin, I would fall in love with any woman that, like, if we like went out once or held hands, I was in love with her. But after I had sex with a few women, it was like, you know, I guess I was desensitized a little bit. So as time went on, it just got worse and worse and worse. Now, am I still capable of falling in love with a woman? Yes. So, I mean, I'll partially concede on that one. I'm definitely right there. So you're right. You can still bounce back in anytime. You might meet a woman that you just like more than the rest of them. Like Mystery Method did that, right? I think. Yeah. I mean, you've got a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. I would say almost. Do you think what do you think about this? On the other end of the coin, you could have a guy who, for example, doesn't, you know, fuck around when he's younger in his 20s. He gets a girlfriend, and then by the time he's in the 30s or 40s, he has a midlife crisis because he realizes he hasn't experienced anyone else. So now he has to make a decision. He's like, shit, you know, I'm getting old. I can, you know, cheat on my wife, who's a good woman, and experience, you know, these longings because I'll never get to experience it again. Or I can stay in the relationship, but I'll miss out. So couldn't you say that there's some credence to actually like trying and experiencing that stuff before you get into a relationship rather than like having that regret later on?
Well, so whether he lost his virginity to his wife, who he's been with for 50 years or whatever, or he went through a pickup artist phase like in his teens and early 20s, he still has to have the discipline to not go back into it. So if you're 50 years old and you've slept with, let's say, 500 women, but for the last 25 years, you've been with one woman, you're going to have that urge still because, you know, you've had some good pussy. Obviously you've been with 500 women. You're going to know what good pussy is. So you're going to see women out there and obviously the temptation is always going to be there. Whereas if that's a woman you lost your virginity to, it's more curiosity, but it's still the same temptation. So I don't think it would make much of a difference, because you're still going to want sex regardless, and you're still going to get bored of that woman regardless. But if you are somebody that values a monogamous relationship, some people do, some people don't. I'm not, that's for you to choose. But if you value that, then resisting that temptation is your responsibility.
Okay. I mean, I see your point. I guess the one more thing I will say on that is kind of lost my train of thought. Okay. I don't even think we're disagreeing on much. I think we kind of agree. I see your point. I mean, I see your point that, yeah, it's like you experience the novelty of having sex with different girls. And it's like sometimes it can be hard to, you've seen that the grass is greener on the other side. So it can be hard to, I guess, put the genie back in the bottle. I think that's your point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say, this is where I was going with this. On the flip side, though, I think it can be pretty dangerous in some ways for men to get into a serious relationship with the first girl they sleep with, or even the first few, because they don't have any basis of experience. So they don't have enough experience yet to determine what makes a good woman, right? Maybe they think that, like, I know a lot of guys who think that their relationship is great, but then they tell me about like how their wife treats them. Like, that sounds horrible, but they don't have enough experiences to know, hey, there's actually way better women out there. There's things that you should screen for. So I'll make the argument that it's good to get that experience as a man earlier on in life, because if you don't have that experience, you could easily, fall for the first chick that fucks you, but then she turns out to be not a good woman.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but again, this is just my experience. Typically, women become an extension of the man that they're with. You see this happen a lot, and if the guy is I guess I don't want to use the term like leader, that sounds kind of corny, but like a good leader and a guy that is just kind of somebody that she looks up to. Like, for example, have you ever got with a chick and she doesn't even watch football, but a month later, your favorite football team is her favorite football team? Maybe what your hobbies become her hobbies.
I know what you mean. I don't watch football, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I think if you have a good relationship with the woman, then you're going to kind of mold her into the woman that she is. So I think, again, as long as she's not like a complete narcissist or complete psychopath or something like that, I don't think you're going to run into that problem.
I sort of agree that you can do some molding, but there's a saying, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, and there's an element of truth to it. I think you're not going to, no matter how good of a leader you are, how great of a example you set, if a chick has shitty values, you're not going to change her. Like, you're not going to, even if you are the best boyfriend ever, she's still going to fuck you over if she has shitty values or she has low self-esteem and she self-sabotages the relationship. And I think it's like, it could be a dangerous trap for a guy who doesn't have much experience with women. He doesn't know how to read women. He doesn't know how to, maybe play cool a little bit and get to know her before committing. I think that can be dangerous for guys in some ways to, I guess, not have that strong basis of experience to choose from. It's almost like a naive strategy in some ways, because you're hoping that things work out well, and that can certainly happen. You can get lucky, but then you've also seen a lot of guys in the manosphere who had the opposite happen. They got married early on in life. Their wife wasn't who they thought they were, and she fucked them over. And whenever I hear those stories, I'm like, well, a lot of that is just because you didn't have the experience to properly screen her.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that is having the ability to set standards. So somebody who has no experience probably doesn't know how to set standards, because he hasn't seen anybody, go beyond what his standards might be. So he doesn't even know how to set them to begin with. Whereas a guy that has experience, you're right about this, a guy that has experience, he starts to see, okay, like, this is the shit I can't put up with. I got to have some standards. I can't deal with somebody that's like this. I can't, we got to have some rules here and some boundaries. So, experience will develop that characteristic in a man. So I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, like, wouldn't you say, for example, like, you mentioned that you used to be more into hookup culture and whatnot, that you are at this point in life now more equipped to find a good partner than you were when you were a virgin? Like, would you agree with that? Like, you are now more capable of that, and that when you were like young and you were a virgin, you would have been more naive and you would have been less equipped to properly look at screen for women. Like you wouldn't even at that point in time know what to look for really in a good partner. At least that's the case with me.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I think I did pretty good when I was inexperienced, just simply because like being a little bit naive actually kind of got me better results. Because
You think
once I
so?
got more like in the know, and this is where like I think the red pill kind of it's good and it's bad. It makes guys overanalyze things,
Sure.
whereas just trusting your instincts and just doing whatever the fuck you want to do to begin with is probably going to get you better results than anything else. I see what you're saying though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'll use my business partner and roommate as a reference. Like for example, he had a situation where he got into a relationship with a chick that turned out to not be a good girl to get a relationship with, and he fucked up a little bit on his own. He started simping quite a lot for her, like in certain ways, and it wound up with her breaking up with him. And that was just a lot of that was just like him not having experience. And he after that, he learned a lesson from that. Now he's going to be more careful. I do see what you're saying, how you can get too jaded and you're too standoffish, which is something that I think happens to some guys in the red pill community. They become almost too guarded, right? So I think there's like a good middle ground between being naive and being like too jaded and too guarded, like a middle path that you need to take. Because if you're like too guarded, I see your point that like, you're just like, whoa, like even like if a girl is really good, you're going to be like too skeptical, right? And you might like weird her out,
Yeah.
right?
Every girl is for the streets now.
Yeah. You just assume that every chick is going to, fuck you over, which is not true. There's some good girls out there. But on the flip side, you have the extreme naivety. So I would say that like the right approach is somewhere in the middle. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to the next point then. So this is a direct quote. A good woman isn't going to be cool with you getting nudes from other girls. So the counterpoint I would give to that would be my girlfriend.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
cut
a
out.
good woman. Yeah. A good woman isn't going to be cool with you getting nudes from other girls.
With you getting nudes from other girls?
Yeah, like sex or nudes or texts from other girls.
Oh, yeah.
So the counterpoint I would give to that is my girlfriend, who I would say is an amazing person. But when I get nudes from other girls, she will look at the nudes and help me pick out, chicks for a threesome, right? So I don't know. Like, I feel like you can have a good woman who's like open, if you guys have that kind of relationship, she's open to like having threesomes with you and shit. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. I think that video was geared towards guys that are looking for like a serious relationship. Again, some of my videos are about hooking up, but this one was about a serious relationship. Now, you may find a woman that is into open relationships for whatever reason, just some women just are, or maybe she's into girls too. And she got a pretty freaky sex drive. So she likes to hook up with men and women. So in a situation like that, it may be useful. But what I was referencing was sort of like the dishonesty factor, because the majority of guys out there are when they get with a chick, she doesn't want them to be with other chicks. She's highly jealous. She's possessive.
Sure.
That's just women are like that.
Sure.
Most men are like that too.
Yeah.
So if you're a dude who, like, let's say you've been hooking up nonstop for the last 4 years, and now you're with a chick who is like, you consider like a high quality woman, a woman you can settle down with. And she's one of these chicks that is possessive. And I don't mean that in a bad way. She's just kind of territorial. She likes you and she wants you all to herself. So you're still going to be, whether you like it or not, in contact with a lot of the chicks that you were hooking up with. They're going to text you. They're going to call you. They're going to send you DMs. And it's like, I mean, this is just me personally again. I can't tell you how many times, like, I'm sitting on the couch, boom, I get a message and I'm like, fuck, and that's just because if I open it, I know damn well, even though I tell her the truth and it's like, look, I haven't talked to this girl in fucking 6 months. I don't even know why she's sending this shit. I still have to deal with the fact that she's not going to believe me. I'll put it like that. You know what I mean? Just because she's a chick. Now, if I was dating a chick that wanted an open relationship, even in that situation, it matters how I handle it. So if I was like, nah, you can't look at that message, then she's going to be like, well, what the fuck? We're in an open relationship. We're honest with each other. You should be able to show me. So if you're in an open relationship or a whatever. She likes girls and guys. Then I would say, as long as you're honest about things, then yeah, you'll probably be in the situation that you're in, where you can just be like, hey, check this one out.
Okay. I mean, I sort of see your point. I would say the only thing I will add to that is, I think any relationship, like in order for it to be solid, you need an element of trust. So if there's like so little trust between you two that when you tell her that, hey, like I haven't talked to this chick in 6 months and she doesn't believe you, that relationship is not on solid grounds because she's either extremely skeptical or you've deceived her in the past and why she doesn't trust you.
Yeah, that's true, but that's also goes back to one of the last points. So kind of cursing yourself from hookup culture. So the relationship is not on solid grounds because she knows your past. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as these guys that are basically saying like they're hyper focused on a woman's notch count, which I'm not, but they say like the guy you had on here, the Chronic or whatever.
Right.
Those guys are hyper fixated on if she's been no hymen, no diamond, right?
Right.
Women kind of have, they're not that hardcore like he is, but if she knows that you have a reputation of being with a lot of women, she's going to be very suspect. Like she's going to watch what you do. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
If she's if she's into open relationships, into girls, and she's open-minded, big city girl, Miami, New York, maybe, but just from my experience, that's what most guys are going to face.
Well, I mean, I would say this though. She should still, even if she knows you were a player in the past, unless you've actively lied to her or cheated on her or she's caught you in lies. If she's in a relationship with you, there should be some element of trust. So she should take your word for it when you say there's nothing going on. Now, look, if she's caught you in lies before, then yeah, that's normal for her to have that reaction. But if you've been extremely honest and transparent with her, and then 6 months into the relationship, you get a text from a chick, and you're like, yeah, this is a girl I met a year ago, I haven't seen her. She doesn't believe you. That's problematic in of itself. That's kind of on her. If you've never lied to her, because that means that she has trust issues then.
That's true. You're right about that. But it's still a problem that you're probably gonna deal with a lot of women. So it's just something that I think guys should be aware of.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been with women who have trust issues, but I do think in general you should avoid getting with women who have like really bad trust issues. I've been there, and it's super annoying. Yeah, it's not sustainable. I had a situation once where a girl, like this chick I was seeing, good girl, but she had really bad trust issues. She would, if I didn't pick up the phone when she called, she would just assume right away I'm fucking another girl. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm taking a shit, doesn't mean that I'm like sleeping, doesn't mean that I'm talking to my friends. It just means automatically I'm fucking another girl. And I was like, I'm flattered that you give me this much props and you think I'm having sex with 5 different girls a day, but that's just not the reality. So it can get super annoying if a girl has like severe trust issues like that. Okay, let's move on to the next point. So this is kind of, I think it's one of your earlier videos. It's just talking about cheating, and the argument you make is when a man cheats, it's meaningless. And I see your point that men and women largely cheat for different reasons. And typically when a woman cheats, it's more emotional. Typically when a man cheats, it's, it's because they're horny and they want to get the rocks off. But I would say it doesn't always work that way, because there's a bunch of cases where guys leave their wives for the new chick, right? So if it was completely meaningless, then that would never happen. They would never leave their wives. So I do think it's not always meaningless when a man cheats. Like, men can cheat because they feel like they're not getting any love or any validation or any affection from their wife. It's not always just sex. That would be my counter argument.
Yeah. So that video was a message to guys that, and the message was, if you cheat on a woman, you may think it's meaningless, but when a woman cheats, it's way worse than when you cheat, because, and this is just going off percentage, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but typically when a woman cheats, she's already moved on to that guy. She's off you and onto him. For a woman to want to get intimate with a man, it takes a lot more of a connection, whereas a man just pretty much looks at her, she got a nice ass, he wants to hook up with her. Women need a little bit of stimulation, so it takes a guy that actually knows how to cause that stimulation. And if he's causing that stimulation, your relationship's in serious trouble. That's what I would say. Now, again, if you're in an open relationship and you're at a swingers club or something like that, and some other,
Right, yeah,
that's a different deal.
Of course.
But if you've got your relationship going on and she's cheating on you, meaning she's sliding off with some other dude, that means he's in her ear, he's in her head, he's probably got her emotions now.
So, generally speaking, I agree with you. Well, I completely agree with the fact that if your girl cheats, the relationship is in serious trouble, if not completely over. I agree with you on that. The one thing I partially disagree with you on is when a woman cheats, she's allowed herself to mentally move on. I think not always. Like sometimes there's situations where a woman is just drunk and horny, and she doesn't really have any feelings for that new guy at all. There's just she's drunk and horny in Vegas, and there's a really charming, good-looking guy. She has a one-night stand with him. She still, she still has feelings for her husband or her, her partner. It was just like, a fucking slip up, right? Because women, like men, we make bad decisions. Women make bad decisions too. Like sometimes men, we think with our dicks, right? And then like later on, we're drinking and then we regret it, right? Because we're like, oh shit, my wife is going to leave me if she finds out. And I think women are capable of the same thing. I don't think they're as prone to it as we are. But I think it does happen, especially when alcohol is involved. Like a woman has a one night stand, and then she regrets it. She still loves her husband, but it wasn't because that she was mentally moved on. She still has feelings for her partner. It's just that she made a bad decision.
It does happen, definitely does happen. But typically, when a man cheats, it's always that slip up. It's that he got drunk and he got horny. I mean, there are occasions like I would say it's the opposite. Like 95% of the time, when a man cheats, he was drunk and horny. Whereas 95% of the time when a woman cheats, she's, this dude is in her ear. It's some dude she works with or something. And he's been, your relationship is kind of, maybe you're not communicating well enough or whatever. She's needs a little something from somebody else. And there he is. And he, makes an impact on her. And by the time she gets to the point where she's in the bedroom with him, she's already psychologically moved on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if we could, if there was some study on this so we could see statistics, because, at this point, it's just me and you speculating. I would say it's maybe more like 80-20, but I don't think we're disagreeing about 15%, which is not much. Okay, so let's move on to the next point. So I noticed that you're a big believer in hypergamy, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
My definition might be different than Rollo's, though.
Well, what's your definition? Let's start with that.
So women want to date. They do like to date up. Women date opportunistically is basically what the modern version of that. So opportunistically doesn't mean that she wants a millionaire. It doesn't mean that you have to be 6 feet tall. It doesn't mean that you have to be a 10 out of 10 in looks. It just means whatever she wants, whatever opportunity she's looking for. So she might be looking for a guy that's going to fucking rub her fingers through her hair and tell her she's pretty. Like she's really emotional and she just wants somebody that has a good emotional connection. You know what I mean? So that might be her version of what her opportunity that she's looking for is. So, I mean, that's basically all that it comes down to. Women, if you're a man that's not able to satisfy whatever the opportunity is that she's looking for, you're probably not a good fit for her. So some women they're just strictly gold diggers, right? They, for whatever reason, they're like psychopaths. They're shut down emotionally. They just want rich men. So in that situation, yeah, the richest guy is going to get the girl. She's going to leave you for a richer guy, but whatever. But, it goes in many different directions. So again, you could be a guy that's very charismatic, very good at talking to her. You're in her ear, really getting her emotions going. Then in that situation, if that's what she's looking for, then, then you'd be good to go. But I'm not sure if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, I think that's actually that's the definition of hypergamy that Rollo would have too. I think that's a pretty standard definition that you just explained. So my counter argument is I do believe in hypergamy to some extent, but I think it's overblown and over exaggerated. And I guess to kind of go into what you say, the example you say is 100% of girls will cheat with Justin Timberlake, right? And I think it's like 50%, 60%. Like, yes, a lot of women will cheat on you with, a celebrity like that they have a crush on. But there's also a lot of women that won't. I think the problem with super relying on this idea of hypergamy is that it implies that women have no self-control. And different humans have different levels of self-control. Some people are extremely disciplined. Some people like basically like animals. Well, I guess we're all technically animals, but some people have like close to no self-control. And there are a good amount of women that will not cheat with you on a celebrity because they have a lot of self-control. They may want to, but they won't do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I made that video in like 2018. I think I was drunk when I made it. I know what you're talking about. You're right about that. You know, and there's also women that are too insecure to get with a celebrity. You know, women that are too insecure to get with a quote unquote high value man. They would actually prefer an average guy because they.
Sure, that can happen too.
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons why I was wrong about that video. I made that like 4 years ago.
Okay.
You know, there's some truths in that video, but some of it was just like, man, what was I talking about?
No, I agree with you. There's some truth in the video. Like I see your point that like, yeah, a good amount of women, like if given the opportunity to fuck their dream celebrity, they will. But there's also some that won't. I think that I think what the red pill sometimes forgets quite often when they talk about hypergamy is the concept of investment. So sure, that celebrity may be, you know, higher value than you in pretty much every way. But if the girl's very invested in you, even though that guy is higher value, she's not going to want to give up all that investment. So look, if a girl has the option, like she's not invested in you at all, you're just a random guy, she has an option of hooking up with you and her favorite celebrity, she'll pick the celebrity, you know, 99 out of 100 times, unless, like you mentioned, she doesn't think she's worthy, right? With the exception of that, she'll pick that celebrity. However, if a woman is very heavily invested in your relationship because you've been together for 2 years and she's happy, then she might not pick that celebrity, not because you're better than him. No, he's still, you know, better than you, but she's so invested in you. You see,
right? She doesn't want to. She knows the reward isn't worth the risk.
There's an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think we're kind of agreeing. So then the next point, this is another quote. I don't know if it's from the same video or not. So if it is, just let me know. If a guy comes along who's similar to you but makes 3 times more money, 9 out of 10 times he can have her. Is that from the same video or is that a different one?
Repeat that.
If a guy comes along who's similar to you but makes 3 times more money, 9 out of 10 times he can have her.
Not always. But if he makes 10 times more money than you, he's got a very, very good advantage. Well, but that's multifaceted. Typically, a guy that so let's say you make 50,000 a year, he makes 500,000 a year. A guy that has the mindset, the discipline, and you know the just the ability to put his mind to something and make that much money, typically is also going to have the ability to talk to a woman. I mean, there might be some out there that don't, but typically it goes hand in hand. Because I think there's levels of your life, like there's different areas of your life that all matter, right? Your financial life matters, your physical health matters, your dating life matters. There's many areas here, but if he's able to cover aspects, like if he's able to make that much money, he probably has a lot of discipline and he probably has all of that stuff, you know, checked out. So, I mean, I still think, I'm going with the guy that makes 10 times the amount.
But so this is okay. So let me ask a clarifying question. This is if like the girl doesn't know either one of you, or this is if like you're dating a girl and another guy comes along who makes more money than you.
So, you know, and it depends on what her value system is, because a lot of women, especially in the ages of like, I would say late 30s, early 40s, she is going to like something in her mind is going to click that if she doesn't cash out now, she never will. Whereas a girl in her 20s is going to be patient. You might be broke as a joke, but you know, you have a lot of charisma. You're a cool dude. You have a lot of connections. Like you're just a cool dude to be around. She'll have patience with you. So, you know, there might be other guys that are, you know, trying to get with her, but she'll stick with you. But a woman who has an opportunity, like a 39-year-old woman that has an opportunity sometimes to even sleep with her boss or get with her boss or marry her boss. This is a problem that, you know, a lot of guys deal with. You know, I've had a lot of guys email me questions about this. And it's like, you know, a dude that is like a total, you know, Chad or whatever, good looking guy. He seems to have a lot of game, And he's like, dude, my wife cheated on me with her boss and she's leaving me for him. You know what I mean? So it's like, why does this happen? What dynamic causes this? And that's again, that's related to hypergamy. Again, it's not going to happen in every situation, but she's realizing that this is her last chance to level up. She sees an opportunity and she takes it. And you know, that's more of a wake up call to guys that like, it's okay to be a loser at 20, and women are going to be forgiving of that and patient. But as time goes on, if she sees herself worthy of being with a guy that has higher status than you, it's a real thing that happens.
Yeah. The big counterpoint I would give to that is a lot of these rich guys are massive losers in pretty much every other area of life. And I think I have a pretty interesting point of reference on this because I live in Miami and I quite often am bang chicks off seeking arrangement. Are you familiar with SA?
With I mean, I've heard of it. I don't use it.
It's basically, I'll explain real quick. It's like a sugar baby, sugar daddy dating website, but you can use it as a regular dating app. So you can use it, you know, not to get a sugar baby, but just to bang hot chicks, right? That's the way I use it. But the vast majority of my competition is like rich old dudes. So like a lot of these chicks that bang, they tell me stories about like, you know, the other guys they went out with, like the rich, you know, older guys. And like, dude, the stories I hear, and this is not just once or twice, I'm talking like I've heard probably over 100 of these stories of these like rich dudes who are just so fucking simpy. Like they have all the money, but they're so desperate for like female validation. Courtney Ryan actually has a really good story on this. She said that she was visiting Miami. She made a video on this. She was sitting next to this sugar daddy type of guy. And she said, you know, this guy was clearly like very rich and well off, but he was like trying so hard and so desperate for the girl's validation that it just massively turns the girl off. So I think there's a tendency sometimes in the red pill community to overvalue how much value money brings. And look, I'm not a communist. I think money is great. I think that, you know, you should make money for your own sake because money makes life a lot easier. But I don't think money helps you get women nearly as much as a lot of people think it does, with the exception of gold diggers. With gold diggers, yes, it will help you massively. But if you're not going for gold diggers, which you probably shouldn't be, money doesn't really help, I think, nearly as much as a lot of guys think it does.
Yeah, but women aren't the same woman. She's not going to be the same woman that she was at 20 when she's 40. And I think the natural progression of a man from the ages of 20 to 40 should be that you should be upgrading your life. You know, you should be leveling up in many different areas. And every human has a little bit of gold digger in them, right? Like everybody kind of, you want more money. So if you're able to satisfy her life and your life and your children's life and all that stuff, then you're going to be fine. But if you're a guy who's like middle class, lower middle class, like below that level, and she has an opportunity to upgrade to a whole different status, I mean, a lot of times she's going to take it. Again, there's some women that are fiercely loyal. A lot of them are, but it's still something that a lot of guys experience.
Sure. No, I'm not denying that. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not denying that, but I do also think that there's this idea that I think a lot of these guys have is that these rich guys are all living like these really cool lifestyles because they see like Dan Bilzerian and stuff like that, right?
Andrew Tate.
But, yeah, but the majority of rich guys are not anywhere close to those guys. Like they're still massive dorks, and they're quite simpy. Like Dan Bilzerian, Andrew Tate are the exception. Like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, like guys like that, they're the exception. They're not the average rich guy. Like I've coached some of these like, you know, rich dudes, and like I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, man, you have millions of dollars and you're such a fucking loser. So I think that's like an important thing to keep in mind. You know, is that okay? Let me ask you this question. Me and Donovan were having this debate. Do you believe that resources is part of the proposition when you're getting a girlfriend? Meaning, like, do you think that you should use your resources as a way to get the girl, or no, that should not be part of the bargain?
No, I actually see that as a red flag when I'm in the the time period where I'm just getting to know a chick, and if I'm taking her serious, again, if I'm just looking to hook up, whatever, I don't care what her morals are, you know. But if it's a chick that I'm actually taking serious, then if I see like if she even makes comments like, really, we're going to this place and you're not taking me to a more expensive restaurant or something like that, that's a red flag to me. So
Yeah.
I think you should just be avoiding those kind of women altogether.
Yeah, so you and I completely agree that I actually think the same thing. I think also for me that's a red flag, and you should never use your resources as part of the bargain. Dave Chappelle has a really good joke, but I think there's an element of truth to it. He says he's like, now like everyone knows me, I'm Dave Chappelle. So he's like, when I roll up on a date with a girl, I drive a garbage truck, right? And then I'm like, I'm the garbage man. And if the chick is like, ew, you're a garbage guy, then I take, I'm Dave Chappelle, bitch. Right. Like, but like there's an element of truth to it. Basically, what he's saying is that when you're like a rich, successful guy, you almost want to pretend to be the sheep and wolf, or I mean the wolf in sheep's clothing or something like that. You almost want to pretend like you downplay that, right? To see if she really likes you if you're trying to like get a relationship. So you see what I'm saying? So that like, yeah, I agree with you on that. Like it should not be part of the bargain. If you make it part of the bargain, you're setting yourself up for failure because if those resources ever go away, she can leave you. Or if there comes along a guy who has more resources, then she can leave you, right? So you're setting yourself up, in a poor way.
It also depends on what you're into. There's some guys like it's weird, but like the escort thing and the sugar baby thing is kind of like a kink. A lot of guys that are like super rich and they would much rather, pay a chick to do something like professional shit, like pay your favorite porn star to do some crazy shit you saw in a porno. You know what I mean? So like, that's just like a kink that they have.
Yeah.
So in some situations it works, but anytime you're looking for anything like meaningful, I would stay away from that.
I think it sometimes even goes deeper than that. Like these guys, it's not just about convenience. It's about like they get off on the idea of some chick like taking their money because they have like an imposter syndrome. Like a lot of these guys, they're so rich, but their self-esteem is low. They don't feel like they deserve that money. So they like secretly get off on a chick like wasting their money. Like you see these guys who make like, 500,000, a month, right? They're super wealthy, million a month, right? And then they do super dumb shit. Like they're super cheap in some areas of their life. Like they don't give any money to charity. They won't like help their friends or family out. But then they just give a chick a black Visa Amex card or whatever, an Amex card, and the chick will spend 50,000 a month and they don't care about that. It's just like this weird like self-esteem issue they have where they almost feel like they're not worthy of a girl.
So it's kind of like cuckolding, but
in a way, like money cuckolding.
Yeah, it's like just tell me you fucking hate me and think I'm ugly. Tell me you're only using me for my money. Just tell me that. Tell me I'm a piece of shit. It is weird, but
it is bizarre. Dude, I had one chick. This was a few months ago. She literally told me she's like, I met her off SA, but then she started telling me about all the businesses she has. I'm like, yo, like I realized when I did the math in my head that she's like a millionaire in her own right. I was like, why the fuck are you on this site? Like you're actually very well off. You're better off than like most dudes on the site. And she's like, I get off on being paid for sex. She's like, it just turns me on. When a guy, I don't need the money, but when a guy gives me money, it makes my pussy wet.
You think she's being honest about that though?
I think so too, because she said that to me, and then she looked at me and she's like, "You're gonna pay me, right?" I'm like, "Absolutely fucking not." And then she's like, "Okay, well, we'll have fun either way."
Yeah, I think that's just kind of like a cope for an escort because she knows she's gonna be like ostracized from society. So
the thing is, that chick was, unless she was completely lying to me, she was legitimately rich.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of escorts are. I mean, I know. There's fucking escorts in Tulsa that will go to places like Miami or whatever. Like I'm friends with them on Snapchat and whatever, but I'll see them down there running around on fucking boats. I'm always looking for fresh and fit when I see shit. I'm like, whose boat are you guys on? But they're down there, just living that life, and they're living a luxurious life. Like they have a professional job, like they make 6 or 7 figures, but they're really just hoes. Yeah, I mean, that does happen. I don't think they actually get off on making money, though. I mean, I don't think that actually turns them on. I just think they just want money.
I think there's a small percentage of girls who legitimately get off on that. Like, that's like a kink.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's like, I'm such a dirty slut, you have to pay me for it. Like, it's not common, but, you'd be surprised how, like, some people have such weird kinks around money.
I can see that.
Yeah,
see that.
It gets bizarre. Those are basically all the things I had in the debate thing, to debate about. Let's quickly put this comment on the screen. Most of the rich guys coming to you have low self-esteem issue, which is where this belief that most rich guys have low self-esteem. So no, a lot of it is actually not from my clients. It's from the stories I hear from the chicks that I hook up with. And also it's from like, I've taken girls off like rich guys. Like I've banged, not like something I'm super proud of, but like I bang like wives that have multi-millionaire husbands. I've like, you know, I've been in bars where I've competed against like rich dudes. So I've seen like this. I live in Miami. Like I live in the center of Miami. I see a lot of this like firsthand. Before Miami, I lived in Texas for a little bit, but then before that I lived in LA. So I think I have like pretty good base of reference for like, you know, interacting with money and wealth. Okay. Yeah. Like, do you mind taking some questions? We got like quite a few.
Yeah, I can take them.
Cool. Okay. So let's see what we got. All right, guys. So yeah, any questions you have? I'm not going to go too far back. So someone says cap. Like, what exactly was cap? Like, someone asked this: does LFA dislike Fresh and Fit?
I don't dislike Fresh and Fit. I understand Fresh and Fit, and I understand why so many people hate Fresh and Fit. I'll put it like that, because what they do is it's more of like a shock jock style of entertainment, like Howard Stern style. You could even say Jerry Springer style, but it's about creating exciting content that's going to get people engaged and get people to watch. So that's why every title is like Punisher, girl says this and Punisher kicks her out, whatever. It's always something like that. So I understand what they're doing, and I understand why dating coaches who are trying their best to give guys solid advice don't like Fresh and Fit, because Fresh and Fit also give dating advice. And a lot of their dating advice is geared towards, as we were saying with like Darius M and 33 Secrets, it's just geared towards getting people excited and getting people engaged. So it's not always the most honest advice. But I see Fresh and Fit from a different perspective. Like I try to see good in everybody. And what I see is Myron Gaines is probably the hardest worker in this space.
That's probably true.
He does like freaking 2 podcasts a day. They have, several like 10 or 15 minute videos every day, several shorts that he's actually talking into his phone on. They also do the training, whether the training is good or not, they do it. And just the amount of time that it would take to get a hold of 10 or like, let's say like 5 to 7 OnlyFans girls or Instagram models on a daily basis, get them in studio, also get a hold of every single day a high profile guest and getting them into the studio. That would require, like, my blood pressure would be so fucking high. Like I just wouldn't be able to do it. So, I commend that work ethic. Now, some of the shit they say or do, I'll put it like this. I wouldn't give people that same advice, but it's not that I dislike them.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And I agree with you on the work ethic part. I don't think they book their own guests though. I think they have like an assistant who does that, but all the other stuff, yeah, it's like 2 podcasts a day. I would be like fucking spent. Okay. Someone says this: what is your opinion on the Rational Male book?
I think it's a pretty good book. Again, I don't think that like I've read like Jordan Peterson's book. I've read a lot of books. So I don't use books to be like the staple of like my life, or like it's like a new Bible. I mean, I read the Bible too, but I don't consider the Rational Male or Jordan Peterson's book or any, human being's book to be something that I am going to model my life by. And there's a lot of people that use the Rational Male to like they live by that. Like it's,
they're like jerk off to that.
Yeah, it is. And in a way, this is crediting Rollo, but in a way, it's kind of like, I don't want to bash his viewers. I don't want to say that's what I'm doing, but he doesn't try to make his content like cult-like, but it becomes that way because his viewers, it's weird. It's so weird. It's almost like, remember when Eminem was really popular and he had all these stands and you got all these weird dudes that are just like, no matter what he says or does, it's like, this guy's a god. He's the best in the world. Yeah. And that's kind of like what Rollo's deal is in the Manosphere. Like his following is just so hardcore that, it's like, come on guys, like you got to live your own life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I think in a lot of ways it is like a cult. Yeah. I agree with you on that. Someone says, I think Rollo, the one thing I disagree with, I think Rollo plays into it a good amount. I've seen him do it. He'll like actively, like one of the criticisms he had of me is he said I was killing people. Yeah, why am I killing people? Because I'm criticizing some of the things he says and he's saving people. So he definitely has some of this like Jesus complex himself. Like it's pretty wild actually. Like some of the stuff he says about himself, like he truly thinks he's like a godlike figure in some ways.
Yeah, well, he, as you were saying earlier, there may be some guys that are with a woman and they don't have a whole lot of experience, right? So reading The Rational Male, if you're a guy and the only woman you've ever been with is your wife, The Rational Male can help you out. But I think if you're a young guy that's like trying to learn the game, maybe it's a good read, but there's also a lot of other things that you need to apply.
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong about everything. I think he's probably right about 60-70% of the stuff in that book, honestly. I only disagree with him on maybe 30% of that book, This is an interesting question. Who do you think would win debate between H3 Podcast and Fit and Rollo? That's an interesting question because I think I don't like H3. I think he's not that smart. First of all, he's not that good of a debater, and he's also pretty disgenuine from what I've seen, like the Steven Crowder incident.
Yeah.
So I actually think that like Myron and Rollo would probably beat H3 in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, if they got in a philosophical debate, they would probably smoke him, especially if they brought like Andrew Tate on or somebody. It'd be over with. But I don't see that ever happening. I don't think H3, he's too mainstream. It's like I don't really see, like, I think Rollo's at a point where Rogan, like that would be like that could happen. He's gotten pretty close. He's been on a podcast with Jordan Peterson's daughter. Valuetainment, like, so, but I think the Rogan thing could definitely happen. But I don't think the mainstream guys want to get involved with the red pill, the super mainstream guys, like, and H3 is there.
Well, you do know that there were actually H3 did challenge Myron to a debate.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So, okay, you might have missed that. But yeah, so what happened was H3 challenged Fresh and Fit to a debate, but then Myron said, can I bring Rollo instead of Fresh? Which I guess makes sense because Fresh is not like really that articulate. And then I think H3 said no. That's basically where it left off.
Yeah, he probably thought that, well, because I'll put it like this. I think Myron read The Rational Male, and that's where a lot of his talking points probably come from, and that's not.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I think
it's not properly. It's a definite. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably H3 thought, I can go against this guy and I can probably beat him, because especially after watching the Brittany Renner deal, like, because, and again, I've met Myron. I think he's a pretty cool guy. I like him. I'd have nothing bad to say about him, but he got put on the hot seat big time. Brittany Renner really, I mean, give that girl some props. Like, I didn't think she would be that good of a debater. Yeah. I mean, but she put him on the hot seat for sure. And I think H3 kind of saw some stuff like that, probably thought, maybe he could do the same. But Rollo really
came in hot. Yeah. She came in hot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, she knew the right things to say to, really kind of make them speechless. But Rollo is kind of an intellectual powerhouse. Whether you agree with him or not, he's very, very articulate and very good at getting his message out.
Ooh, Rollo?
Points. Yeah. So definitely. I mean, I would definitely say that. So he's the kind of guy that can talk for hours and just talking about stuff that you're not even really sure what he's talking about, but it seems like it's making sense.
Last thing you said, I agree with. He's very good at talking in circles about random shit. I actually don't think Rollo is nearly as smart as he thinks he is, as his audience makes him out to be. I don't get me wrong. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's above average intelligence, but I don't think he's a genius. I think, like, if I debated Rollo, I would smoke him in a lot of ways, but we'll see if that ever happens. Versus, I don't feel that way about other people. Like, if I debated, I don't know, like, trying to think, like, if I debated Andrew Tate, like, I don't feel like I would smoke Andrew Tate. I think it would be a draw, or Andrew might even win. So I don't feel like, it's not that I think I'm so good that I can beat everybody. No, there's a lot of people. Like, if I debated Ben Shapiro, I would get owned, right? Even though I think
Anybody would,
myself as
yeah.
like really knowledgeable about politics, I think Ben Shapiro would kick my ass, right?
Right.
At best, I might be able to draw him, but I would never be able to beat him. So it's not that I think I'm so good. It's just that I don't think Rollo is that great. Like I think I could probably beat him in a debate. And I think H3 also kind of sucks. So I think Rollo was definitely better than H3. But that's not because Rollo was so good. That's just because H3 kind of sucks. He just seems like a fat, lazy guy, honestly.
Yeah. Well, he's very sneaky. So
Yeah, he is.
I don't think he would actually do the debate. He would pull like what he did with Steven Crowder, because
that was like super lame.
Yeah, Steven Crowder is not a good debater either. He was extremely nervous. You could see that. He's okay.
I think Steven Crowder is decent.
He's good on like the short like change my mind bits, but I'm not sure if he could actually sit down against like somebody his own size, like Shapiro or Jordan Peterson or somebody like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What's it called? But onto the Brittany Renner thing. Yeah, she came in really good. Like she's way more articulate than I expected her to be. Because when I first learned about her, which was like a year ago, I just honestly thought she was just like some thought who bangs a bunch of NBA players, which is fine. I'm not gonna shame her for it, but I didn't think she was articulate. But she came in good. And you could see that Myron, he's like, oh, well, he was in his head like hardcore. He didn't know what to say. His only response was, "You're in your feelings," right? Like that's like the only response he had in that situation, which I found interesting. But apparently he wasn't even told about that. So apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, that Fresh set it up without his permission.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I know it was like academics
and Fresh,
yeah. I don't know exactly what happened. I can't even speak on that.
I would be pretty pissed at my business partner if he set up a debate without my permission. Oh, surprise! But yeah, who knows how true that is? Okay, I mean we went through a good amount of questions. I thought this was a really good discussion. Honestly, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I mean this went a lot better. I wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't sure if I was going to come on here and it was like a setup or something like that.
No, man, I don't do that.
Conversation. It seemed like more of a back and forth podcast than a debate. Like there might have been a couple like small disagreements, but it seemed like more of a podcast conversation.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think what's interesting is when you start doing debates and you start getting into nuance, you realize you're not as like different as you thought. And that's just been my experience every single time I've ever done a debate. So I think that's interesting. I think as long as both parties go into it with good intentions. So if someone goes into it with intention of like, like making someone look bad or making someone look dumb, then you're not going to get to that conclusion. But if you go into it with like a good faith type of, mindset, like, hey, let's just kind of like let's have a little intellectual sparring match in good faith and just see where we stand, then I think you usually get to a pretty good point at the end. And I think that's what happened today. Like it happens pretty much every time.
Right.
So how can guys find your channel? How can guys support you? Where should guys go?
I mean, right now, all I'm doing is, I've got the YouTube channel. That's really the only place you're going to find me on the internet. So they can go check that out if they want to. If not, it's cool. I'm not really super aggressive about, blowing up.
Cool. All right, man. Well, yeah, you got some good stuff on the channel. So check out LFA, subscribe to his channel, show him some support. Make sure you subscribe to our channel because we're coming up on 100K. We're going to have a big party and everyone is invited.
Yeah, congrats for that, man. You've been taking off lately.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, trying to. We're growing a little bit faster, but still not nearly as much as I would like to. But soon we'll get there. All right, cool. Awesome. Thanks, LFA. Thanks, guys. Until next time.